This being the time and place for our scheduled October 21st, 2025 Planning Commission meeting, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Would you please call the roll?
Board.
Here.
Hey. Wade. Here. 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 Temple. Here. Burrows.
Here.
Pike.
Here.
Here.
All right, we do have a quorum today. Our next item of business is usually the minutes, but we'll postpone that until our next meeting and take 2 sets of minutes for our next meeting. I'd like to take a moment and introduce the Planning Commission members and give a brief description of what we do and how this meeting is conducted. The Commission has 9 members, 8 of us are volunteers appointed by the mayor for 6-year terms. We also have 1 member from the City Council. My name is Gary Gordon. I'm the Vice Chair. Our Secretary is Larry Wade. The other members of our Commission members are Ms. Frances Tate, which is not with us today, Myrna Burrows, and we got Ross Terry, we got Eddie Pike, we got Forrest Temple, and our council member is Hunter Pepper, and he's not here with us today. Members of the public seeking to get an item considered by the Planning Commission must send an application to the Planning Department not less than 21 days prior to the meeting. Unless otherwise specified, all applications for development approvals are at the request of submittals by a private citizen seeking to change some change in their own property. In making our decisions, a primary tool used by the Planning Commission is the One Decatur Comprehensive Plan. This was a general community plan for the city of Decatur and was adopted through a public process to formalize a vision for the future of Decatur community that represents the interest and the will of all Decatur residents. In many of these cases, the Planning Commission does not have final say. Zonings, annexations, vacations, sidewalk cafes, and resolutions all require additional approval by the City Council before they become official. In these cases, the role of the Planning Commission is to advise the City Council. The first part of our agenda today is the consent agenda. This is the part of the agenda that the Planning Commission has final decision on. We got public comment?
Yeah.
Public meeting first.
Yeah.
So I'm off on my. So we're going to take those cases to start with. Those are the consent agenda. I mean public meetings. So if you will start with our first case.
Okay. Our first case is annexations, 381-25. It's on 4.9261 acres. It's located in unincorporated Morgan County. The applicant is Lee Green, landowner James Morrill. It is located west of 4211 Ruby Point Southeast. The proposed land use is residential. One Decatur future land use recommends low residential. One Decatur street typology is Ben Pool Road is a local street. There are no conditions to be met.
All right. This is a public hearing on this item, so if there's anyone here that wishes to make any comments on this item, you can come forward to the microphone and state your comments. Please give us your name and address, or name if you're a city citizen of Decatur. Okay, there being none, we'll call that closed. So with that, I'll entertain a recommendation from the commission on this item.
Recommendation to approve. Second.
Recommendation by Mr. Temple, seconded by Mr. Wade. Any discussion among the commission on this item?
I have a question. Are they asking for pre-zoning on this or just annexation only?
Annexation first, and then later we'll address the pre-zoning.
Okay.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, will you call the roll, please?
Board.
Yes.
Wade. Yes. Terry.
Yes.
Temple.
Yes.
Burrows.
Yes.
Pike.
Yes. Okay, that stands approved. 5-6. All right, next item.
Okay, moving on to the rezonings and pre-zoning. First, we have rezoning 1430-25 on 17.35 acres. The current zone is R-2. The applicant is Pugh Wright McNally. Landowner Ronald S. Stroop and Donald Lane is located north of 2726 Auburn Drive Southwest. The request is to rezone 17.35 acres from R2 to R1E. The proposed land use is residential. One Decatur future land use recommends low residential. One Decatur street typology, Auburn Drive Southwest, is a local street. There are no conditions to be met.
All right, this is another item for public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak to this item? You come forth, state your name, and tell us if you're a resident of Decatur.
My name is Allison Blackburn Akins. I am a resident of Decatur, and our property backs up directly to this property. And we are under the understanding that it will be developed for residential homes. What I'm concerned is what is the lot size, and then I also understand they want to put horses on it. So I've been told they have to have 5 acres for 2 horses. Is that correct? That they're going to, what their plans are?
Chad, can you address that point for this zoning?
Yes, R-1E does allow for horses, a minimum of 2 horses for 5 acres, and then a horse per additional acre. So that is permitted with R-1E.
Do you know the lot size or anything that they're planning? You don't know yet. I think my concern is with the estate of Vernon Lane having been up in the air for so long, we've had a real problem with the ditch behind our house that is owned by this property not being maintained satisfactorily. We're getting it, they're mowing it once a year, and it's directly impacted our landscaping. It is a real nuisance. So I hope whoever develops this and will maintain that ditch. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any other comments?
John McDarrah. So I own this land beside this property, 2813 Old Moulton Road, and some land south of there too, another 8 acres. So I just want to know what they're trying to do here. Because we went down this road 4.5 years ago when Vernon wanted to change it to ag. It was flat turned down. It does not meet the 1 Decatur. And so I just want some answers here. What they think and what they're going to do. You know, I've been waiting patiently for 4.5 years to buy this property. And been lied to evidently the whole time, evidently West living right now. I've kept this property bush hogged and cut because they won't do anything. They finally come out and bush hog the front pasture just Saturday. The same ditch right by my property where the little neck is right here, it's just terrible. Hadn't been kept up in 4.5 years. They don't care. But to have all this different zoning is crazy. So, and different addresses and different zonings, and like I said, I'm pretty pissed off today about the whole thing, really. I feel like I've been lied to for, 4.5 years. And so, I say vote against it, because like I said, it's been turned down one time 4.5 years ago. Some of you guys are new since then, but same problem. If you go there right now and ride the property, it looks terrible. And has ever since Mr. Lane died. So, but we've done our part to keep it up looking nice and bush hogged it, spraying it at my cost. And then get lied to like this, So thank you.
Okay, thank you for your comments. Anyone else wish to speak to this? Blake, do you have anything to offer to this since you're the...
Blake McAnally, representing the applicants, 310 8th Avenue Northeast. I've got several things that you may or may not be aware of. If you would indulge me, I'd love to help you understand. This is from the position of the property owners. The property has been in probate for quite a long time. Who would own the property and how it would be taken care of was frankly not understood until the probate was accomplished. That was done just a few months ago. The sons of Mr. Lane, who did pass away, want to sell the property. They have a potential buyer. We're here today asking to rezone this property, and we'll address in a moment the adjacent property. This property is asked to be rezoned from R2 to R1E. Mr. Bowman has already said it, but if you desire to have horses on this, it must be a minimum of 5 acres per lot. So considerably less dense properties in regard to this. With just some history on the property, the landowners would like to continue to grow a hay crop on part of their property. That's going to be the one that we're going to address next. These are divided into two because this is one tract of property. It is divided into 2 zones. Part of it that we will address shortly is the ID piece. That's the only one we're asking for Ag 1. It joins in Ag 1. It was Ag 1 before. I'll explain when we come to that one next why we're asking for that piece to come back to Ag 1. This area that we're talking about has been pasture for 35 years. Property owners and nearby neighborhood, Cityview, have not had problems with that before. We did come a few years ago when Mr. Vernon Lane wanted to rezone everything back to Ag 1, including the tract you're considering at this time, because he wanted to run cows on the property. The potential buyer and developer does not desire to run cattle on the property and will not run cattle on the property. The couple other things, I have more to say on the next one. This one, again, is going from a considerably more dense to something less dense. This property was planned to be a part of Cityview Farms. Many years ago, due to the economy and the slowdown of development, it took many years to sell everything that Mr. Lane developed in Cityview Farms. He owned all the property initially. They decided, the family did, not to continue to develop Cityview because there was no ROI there. So that potential doesn't exist today. There's not a market for it. The cost to construct these days is so expensive. We're in the business and we work for a lot of national developers, and we find that these folks, when they land with a piece of property, these lots are $60,000 or $70,000 invested before they even sell the dirt. So it's not going to be an addition to Cityview. It's just not feasible. It's not going to happen. So they need to find something else they can sell the property for, and they have a buyer. He would like R1E. This buyer is going to live on the property and build a house on the property and would put a stable on the property, the next one that we're going to talk about. He would be able, on this property, because it is R1E, to run, as Mr. Bowman said, 2 per 5 acres. He intends to have horses, but he's not ever going to have more than 5 or 6. That's all he has now. It's just really a hobby for him. Any questions from the commission for this property, I'll be happy to entertain. I will have more to say about the next one, as this is divided into 2 different requests.
One question, Blake, did the owners consider subdividing the property like they wanted to zone it? Did they ever consider that?
Well, there is no consideration for doing that in the near term. We're talking about the R1E piece, which is the southeast half. That property has basically very little frontage on Auburn Drive, which at that point is incomplete. So it would require construction and extension of Auburn Drive to get to the right-of-way. There is a side street dedicated, right-of-way dedicated, but no improvements in there. So both of those streets would have to be constructed to even get a few lots out of the R1E. At this point, there is no plan to subdivide it further.
Yeah, and I really wasn't talking about subdividing for building homes. I was just subdividing with these two different tracts.
Well, I mean, it is a 32.2 acre tract, and what we're trying to do is to get it to where the buyer can use it. Again, in the next one, it'll help explain why we are asking for ag on the next one. You will hear on this one, R1E, it stays residential. It is less dense, and it is what the market will bear. And, you know, we have a situation where property owner, honestly, in 2 occasions before this commission in times past has been denied to do what he wants to do with his property, the original owner of all of the adjacent property. And, you know, they just want the freedom to do what they need to do with their property. This is very non-invasive compared to what it could be. I mean, there is a PRD 8 just up in the light pink that is to the northeast, that's on the north edge of this piece, that could allow 8 houses per acre. And we're not talking about anything like that. So, any other questions?
Commission, got any questions? Okay. Yes, sir.
So just let it be known that I own City View Farms. So this here will not be anything to do with City View Farms at all. You're not going to use my name. And if you're about when it rains, the whole property just floods. And I said there's a ditch issue that really needs to be cleaned up also, but they won't use my name.
I'm talking about the subdivision. I'm not talking about Mr. McDermott's property. And let me say this. If the property remains as it is, the likelihood of it being improved is much less. The potential buyer for this property will put considerable dollars in correcting issues on the property, maintaining the property, and treating the property like it should be taken care of. This family has gone through an unexpected death, a long probation, and they've just come to the point where this can happen. So we have a potential buyer that will take care of this property. Is a proven, I'm not at liberty to say who, but it's a proven individual who's local, and he will take care of the property.
Okay, any other comments?
I think there may be multiple zonings on this, and just legally that's not something that's generally preferred. It's preferred to take the property, divide it out, and then zone each particular parcel so that each parcel has its own. And that's just something that, it's not that it's not allowed, it's just something that's generally not done. I don't know how many zones this will end up with, but that's just something to consider. Because legally that can become a little bit problematic to try to prove what's being done on one portion of the property when there's no property line. It makes it a lot more easy to understand if there's parcels, separate parcels for each zone.
Just to give you a little more information, we recognize that anything else that would have to be done to the property to subdivide it would have to come back before you, and we'd have to meet all the zoning regulations and subdivision regulations. Have no issue with that whatsoever.
So, we got someone else. Come up and state your name and your citizen Decatur, please.
My name is Ray Dwelly. I live at 1901 Weatherly Circle. I'm a little confused. Are we talking about all 3 parcels here, the whole 70-some acres, or which one are we talking about right now?
We're talking about one parcel here of 17.35 acres going from R2 to R1E, which is that red highlighted piece right there.
Okay, and that's the piece that backs up to Weatherly Circle, right? Yeah. And what is the zoning of where I live now? What is that? Just a regular residential zoning? I'm new to the community, so
Yes.
I'm familiar with zoning because I'm a commercial real estate broker, so, but not here. So we're just talking about that one track right there. So,
For right now, yes, sir.
so if it was to be divided or anything like this, they'd have to come back, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, sir.
Okay, anyone else wish to speak? Okay, Chad, just one quick question.
Yes, sir.
Does this R1E meet the one Decatur plan that we sort of got in place?
It is considered a low-intensity residential.
Okay. Anybody have any questions of Chad? Okay, if there are no further questions or comments, I'll entertain motions from the commission.
Motion for approval. Second.
Got a motion for approval and a second. Okay, let's call roll.
Ford.
Yes.
Wade. Yeah, I have no problem with approving this. I vote would be yes. Terry.
Yes.
Temple. Yes. Burrows.
No.
Yes.
All right. It's approved 5-1 from the commission vote. Okay, next item, please.
Okay, moving on to rezoning 1431-25. 15 acres, currently zoned ID institutional. Applicant Pew Wright McNally, landowner Ronald S. Stroke and Donald Lane. Location 2735 Old Moulton Road. The request is to rezone 17.35 acres from ID institutional to AG-1 agricultural. Proposed land use residential. 1 Decatur future land use low residential. 1 Decatur street typology. Auburn Drive Southwest is a local street. Conditions to be met, there are none. Yes, correction. The request is to rezone 15 acres from ID to AG1 for matter of record.
Okay, Chad. Okay, is anyone here wish to speak to this item?
It's all together, it's the same argument.
Well, it's a different zone, it's a different zone. It's a
It
different.
doesn't mean when you pay, you won't go to ag, it's not ag now, don't go back to it again. We've been at it already, guys. Come on.
Anyone else wish to speak to this?
I'd like to wait to.
This is a little different zoning, and I want to explain to you why the request is different. The owners of the property would like to be able to continue to get hay crops off the property. This property is not adjacent to City View Estates. In fact, it's several hundred feet from City View Estates. The required residential zoning rules for Ag 1 are R1, which is very similar to what you just approved for the other property. This same pasture has been used for growing hay and grazing livestock for 35 years. It's always been maintained in optimal conditions. Of late, I've explained to you the problems that brought us to the point of they're just now being able to deal with that. The requested Ag 1 rezoning tract is not adjoining, immediately adjacent to any City View farms. We talked about that. Further, the subject property rezoning tract is adjoined to the west and the east by a tract of land that is zoned Ag 1. The rezoning request for the ID zone tract to Ag 1 would provide additional restrictions for future development. At the current ID zoning, That the current zoning on this property would allow a lot of things that are not conducive to what the neighborhood wants. It would allow schools, academies, auditoriums, coliseums, gyms, cafeterias, fraternities, sororities, stadiums, athletic fields, fraternal orders, orphanages, public buildings, and on appeal, it would allow churches, boarding houses, restaurants, and R4, multifamily development. Of course, those on appeal would have to come before you to be approved, but those are what the current zoning of institutional will allow today. We're talking about taking it back to Ag 1, which would pretty much restrict it to R1 type residential, the largest family residential lot requirements that you have in the zoning ordinance. The potential buyer or the developer of this property intends to build a single residential home, his. So the buyer will be resident on the property. He would also build on this property a stable for horses.
Blake, do you know why it changed from ag to ID?
That's what I wanted to know.
I do not know for sure, but my recollection is that one time, many years ago, there was a consideration for a private school to be built on the property. I'm not sure why that didn't happen. I know there was one up to the north of the road that is currently the PRD 8 that was a Tri-County Bible School. It closed and the building was torn down, and someone bought the property, rezoned it speculatively for a high-density development. Again, I said this earlier, but the number of horses is 5 to 6. That's all we're talking about running on 30 acres, quite a lot of acreage. This ID zone property has been denied rezoning on 2 occasions before. Once for all of the property, the tract that you're considering here and the tract you just approved to go to R1E for the entire thing to be ag. At that hearing, there was a lot of opposition for having cattle on that property, and it was denied. That is not what we're asking for. This is different. We're asking, as we have just told you on the R1E that you approved, that's only horses. It does not, what you just approved does not allow cattle. On the property that we're talking about here, it would allow cattle, but this developer doesn't do cattle. He only wants to put horses on this property. He's going to live on the property. The second time there was a use on appeal attempted on the property, and it was for multifamily to build an apartment complex there, and that one also failed. So 2 times this family has attempted to sell the property to developers for different uses. One of them was actually Mr. Lane himself. The buyer of the property must have an Ag 1 for the operation of horse farm for income tax purposes. If it can't get an Ag 1 zoning, this deal will not go through and the property will remain just as it is today with the problems that it has today. A good family who has contributed an awful lot to Decatur over the last 35 or 40 years. They developed all of City View Estates, and to this point, they've been denied the freedom to use their property in the way that they wanted to. We believe that we've come back now and made a request that comports to what we were told the last time we were here when the rezoning was denied to make it all ag. So we've come back and asked for R1E, as was suggested the previous time we were here. I just implore you to allow this rezoning to move forward and let this family be able to sell the property and move on.
We need to go back, Blake, and ask you a question for clarification, please. You said that in order for the new buyer to have a horse farm, he has to have property that's zoned Ag 1.
That's correct.
So that's the main reason for having the single parcel of land with 2 different zonings.
That's correct. The request for 2 different zonings is for the purpose of...
He can't do what he wants to do in an R1E zoning? The requirements for federal income tax do not allow him to do that. That is correct. But also on Ag 1, he can have a dairy farm or livestock or fish hatchery or poultry farms or pig farms. So if the new buyer doesn't come through and we rezone it Ag 1, those are all potentials in Ag 1 as well.
They are.
Maybe
They
residential, similar to Ag 1, but it doesn't keep it to residential. They can be all those other things as well, correct?
That's correct. If the potential buyer developer would be willing to stipulate to the horses, except that in a rezoning, I don't believe conditions can be applied. So we would be pleased to do that, but by law, we cannot.
And by law, by the tax law, he cannot do what he plans to do
That's correct.
unless he has an Ag 1.
That's correct.
Thank you.
So one more thing.
Yeah, sure.
So he talks about not being adjacent to City View Estates. That really hasn't come into play. So right here is all City View Farm, so it is adjacent to me. The only thing that divides it is a barbed wire fence and a gravel road. So, and a horse farm just as bad as a cattle farm. I mean, you know, so, and there hasn't been a cow in that land in 20 years. I've been there 11 years. So don't give them that excuse. And they've been cutting hay there for 10 years already with zone like it is. That's all I have to say about it.
Yes, ma'am. Please state your name and if you're a citizen of Decatur or not.
I'm Mary Moore, a citizen of Decatur, live in City View Estates. My concern is Auburn Drive. You know, it ends at City View Estates. And he mentioned it would be extended, I guess, for access to that first parcel. My concern is how far would Auburn be extended?
I think he said it would have to be extended if they were going to do a development.
And we don't, you know, we would not want it extended into Old Moulton Road to make that a shortcut through the subdivision.
I think a clarification is that he said if the new buyer was planning to develop that property that would just change to R-1E, then Auburn would have to be extended and you would have to have another access point, but that's not their plans. So
Okay.
no plans to extend Auburn at this point. Is that correct, Blake?
And it would have to come back to this commission as well to review the site.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mary.
She did that one good point, good guys. So on Old Moulton Road right here, in between my property, City Farm, and this property here, there's a gravel road that goes from Old Moulton all the way into the cul-de-sac at City View Estates. And that road is actually deeded to the city. That's a city road. It hasn't been maintained in years and years and years. And so I own 30 foot of that center on that road. And I went to the commission several years ago and asked that road to be closed at the cul-de-sac because City View Estate won't ever go past that ever again. So that road now, what's that road going to be now? That's a city road. If you're not going to use it, close it down. Because we get traffic there all the time, people doing stuff they shouldn't be doing by our property. And so I asked the commission years ago to close that road, just close it off. And so now that road there, really the city owns it. Now, I'm not sure if you're aware of that or not.
All right, thank you for your comments.
I would just say,
Yes,
Mr. McDowell is right. If I'm not mistaken, on City View Farms, I think that plat, it did dedicate the right-of-way. It is city right-of-way, and it is just a gravel road. I think that the plat may have had a stipulation there that if the road got built, it had to be built by the developer, not by the city. So, yeah, it's been a problem. Closing it, we would not be opposed to that if that happened.
I thought it for years, and I had it approved to do it. And Mr. Lane up here just did it to bid. And they just kind of let it go, but it'd be great if you shut down.
That's where it goes back into Old Moulton.
No, sir. It goes into City View Estate on Auburn Drive. From Old Moulton.
Yeah.
We got a gate down the other Moulton side. We have a gate there. It's kept long. It opened it up, it's like a freeway there. From City View to the southwest, all the Old Moulton, it's a freeway.
last clarification that I failed to say earlier, Mr. McDarrow right. They have a cut hay there on a regular basis. They've cut it in the R2 area more than they wanted to because it's a residential. Community development comes out when it gets a knee high, and they will cite them and require them to cut it before it's mature for hay. So they have to cut it sooner than they want to. So, there's other reasons. They, as I mentioned earlier, they want to continue to be able to cut hay off of it, but as it's zoned right now, the city actually comes out and says, cut it now, even when the hay is immature.
Okay, anyone else here have any comments? Okay, Chad, I guess just one clarification point.
Yes, sir.
Does this meet up with the one Decatur plan as it's slated to go to? We approve this?
This meets up with the recommendation from the One Decatur plan recommends low residential. However, what I will say is that if we should not be in the practice of having multiple zonings on one parcel. We should attempt to subdivide the property so that these different zoning classifications are separated, because there is no actual way to separate floating zoning over a parcel. So I will make that recommendation. The second thing too is, being as though whatever we zone it to, the property owner will have the right to do any of those permitted uses on that property. So we must take that into consideration, especially not being able to put any conditions on the rezoning. So we have to consider that, as I would like to make as a recommendation, because we never know what will happen if the property is transferred. So just keep that in mind while making your decisions. But aside from that, agriculture is considered a low residential. However, we have multiple zonings on this parcel, so we would like to see that as subdivided so that we're not put at a liability for making this decision. And there's, as I mentioned, no distinct way of separating the uses and the land uses and the zoning on the property.
Okay.
I have one more question I'd like to address to Blake, the potential new owners of this property. Has any discussion, to your knowledge, been carried on about actually dividing this parcel of land into two different parcels after he buys it, one with R-E and one with agriculture?
No, sir, because they want to move freely about the one parcel and live on the entire 32. Plus, the larger tract is, I do not believe that it has frontage on a developed public road. There is a right of way there. And so,
that would prevent being able to divide the two without giving access to Old Molten Road.
Right, and I think that...
So it looks, according to the map that I have, that there is that driveway that was built back in there that goes to the area we just approved as a R1-E. That would give them access to Old Molten Road.
No, but not legal frontage on Old Molten Road. That's a different issue. So by if you require it to be subdivided, it has to have a minimum of 50 feet touching Old Molten Road, and it does not have that condition.
Okay. Thank you. That answers my
It
question.
is one parcel.
Okay. All right, I think that's all the comments we have. Does the commission have a recommendation on this?
Motion for approval?
Motion for approval. Second. Pike, second by Mr. Temple. Any further discussion on this item of commission? Okay, will you call roll, please?
Board.
No.
Wait.
Yes.
There.
No.
Temple.
Yes.
Burrow.
No.
Aye.
Yes.
All right. This is not approved 3-2 vote by the commission. This will go on to the city council for final approval.
For correction, it was 3-3.
3-2.
3-3.
3-3. Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah, 3-3.
So, stalemate. It goes on to the city council. Chad.
Okay. Moving on to pre-zoning 1432-25. This is for 4.9261 acres in unincorporated Morgan County. The applicant is Lee Green. The landowner is James Morrill. It's located west of 4211 Ruby Point Southeast. The request is to pre-zone the 4.9261 acres to R2 single family. The proposed land use is residential. One Decatur future land use is low residential. And One Decatur street typology is Benpool Road is a local street.
Okay, does anyone here wish to speak to this item? Okay, it doesn't seem like there is.
Make a motion to approve. Second.
Our second by our first by Mr. Wade, second by Mr. Terry. Any further discussion from the commission? Call roll, please.
Gordon.
Yes.
Wade.
Yes.
Terry.
Yes.
Temple.
Yes.
Burrow.
Yes.
Aye.
Yes.
Okay, that's approved 6-0. I guess we'll move into our consent agenda next. Chad, if you'll read all these cases together and we'll take them all together.
Okay. Consent agenda site plans for site plan 71825. On 2.51 acres, R4. Applicant Pew Wright McNally, landowner, City of Decatur. Location is 100 Somerville Road Southeast. The request is to approve site plan to construct parking with 14 spaces. The proposed land use is institutional. One Decatur future land use recommends parks and conservation area. One Decatur street typology is Somerville Road Southeast is a minor arterial. The conditions to be met per engineering is that on page C2.0, please continue to curb taper around the radius at the entrance and exit. On page C4.0, please close the silt fence across north exit or make it a construction entrance. On page C4.0, please provide the pipe inlet protection details. Last comment on page C2.0 per planning, please show location where the parking lot is going in reference to the site. And please show the entire site on the map. The next item on the consent agenda, we go into certificates. Certificate 3653-25 on 2.19 acres is currently zoned AG-1 agriculture. The applicant is Pew Wright McNally. The landowner is John Lovelace. The location is 4250 Bennick Road. The request is to subdivide tract 2 from 1.5 acres to increase it to 2.19 acres. The proposed land use is residential. One Decatur future land use recommends mixed neighborhood. One Decatur street typology is Bennick Road Southeast is a local street. Lastly, we have certificate 3654-25 on 0.34 acres, currently zoned B2 general business. The applicant is Pew Wright McNally, landowner Cook's Properties LLC. The location is 431 Holly Street Northeast. The request is to subdivide the property. Proposed land use is commercial. One Decatur future land use recommends Flex Employment Center. The One Decatur street typology is Urban Core Downtown. And that completes all items on the consent agenda.
All right, is anyone here to speak to any of these items?
We'll answer any questions on the ones we have tonight.
All right, do I have a motion from the commission?
Motion approved. Second.
Motion by Mr. Temple, second by Mr. Pike. Any further discussion?
I do have a question for Blake on this last one. Property 431 Holly Street. I can't just tell from the material that we've been given. It says subdivide the property. Can you explain that for me?
This is property that is on Holly Street, south side of Holly Street. This is across from Regions Bank. This was the former Red Cross property. The building has been torn down. This property is going to be donated to the city by the Cook Museum for future construction of the city parking deck.
Okay.
A portion of the east side of this property will not be incorporated into the deck and would remain a small sliver here that would have to be sold into what would be another development tract to the east. The entity is a nonprofit, and it's granting to a nonprofit, and they needed to sever off the piece that will have to be sold such that they could grant the piece that is for the nonprofit.
All right, thank you. You just couldn't tell clearly from where that property line was. Appreciate your answer.
All right, any more discussion from the commission? All right, call roll, please, Tommy.
Gordon,
Yes.
Wade,
Yes.
Terry,
Yes.
Kimball,
Yes.
Burrows,
Yes.
High.
Yes.
All right, those are approved 6-0. Being no more business, we'll adjourn this meeting.